Welcome to the JP Podcast. I'm your host, John, and today's show is on DC Comics. We brought Eric back on, and we're going to talk about everything that has been going on since last year when we brought him on. We talked a little bit about DC. We had him on recently, and we talked Marvel, but this time we're just going to strictly talk DC, and hopefully you enjoyed the show. Let's get started. Okay, welcome back, Eric. I'm very happy to have you back on the show, and thank you for joining us. We appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
And we were talking yesterday, sort of a pre-interview, that we were just strictly going to talk about DC, and we were also talking about they really haven't been doing much since we last talked last year about DC.
Mm-hmm.
And but some of the shows that they did have out is one that you recommended for me, and I actually liked it, was the Sandman. Now, a lot of people that I've been talking to did not know that the Sandman was part of DC. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Sandman and everything that comes with him?
So the Sandman, it's on Netflix. It's written by Neil Gaiman. He's one of my favorite writers. It's all about the endless. So you got Dream and Death, but you also got like his sisters, and there's 7 total. Each one of them is like, one of them's like a sin, so you have gluttony and all that. And it's kind of based off of, Death is based off of mythology. And he's very good at writing that type of genre.
So what did you think about the way it's on Netflix compared to the comic books?
It's they didn't leave anything out that is major. There's a couple things, like they didn't have John Constantine in it. They had Joan Constantine. I think that's probably because of some kind of rights, that they couldn't get. So they used somebody in his family. I thought it was pretty good the way that they put it through it, and it turned out to be a nice show.
Now, is his character, is he more of a good guy or is he a bad guy? I mean, starting off in the show, it's actually pretty dark. It's got a dark theme to it.
Well, yeah, I mean, he is very vengeful, and if you've wronged him, he will definitely, wrong you. Time doesn't pass the same for them that it does to us. That's why, like, when he went to hell in the series, when the troll took him the long-about way, and he passed the cell, and there was a woman in there.
Mm-hmm.
She had been in there for hundreds of thousands of years.
Wow.
And she wronged him. And so it's like, and everybody sees Dream differently. So, that's why he went looking like, he was from an African tribesman. And, so it's like people view him differently. Mm-hmm. So have you watched episode 11 yet?
Yeah.
So that's why in episode 11, he was a cat.
Okay.
Because everybody dreams and everybody sees him as they are, as a dream.
Okay.
Version. Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that one, and I wouldn't have watched it not knowing it was part of DC. So I that's probably why I didn't watch it. I didn't know what I was getting into, but when you explained it and I started watching it, I was really, really, really digging it. Now, he seems to change because of being captive for a century, right? So when he comes back, things have changed, and that seems to have, as bad as it was for him being, prisoner all that time, it also opened up his mind to different things. So I see that he was open to a couple things. Like there was one lady that he had put in I don't want to say prison, but he had put her somewhere. And then at the end, he kind of brings her back and lets her free, and they're all saying, this is not like you, So that's why I was wondering if he was good or bad.
Yeah, you're talking about how he took one of his creations that was bad and let her change. So it's kind of represents the change that he went through in the movie. He is still very vindictive, but he sees things differently now that he had been captured, and also his talks with his sister Death. She kind of changed some of the perspective for him.
Yeah. I like that episode with her, and he's walking around basically just asking her, how do you do this, and that one was pretty good. I do like that Constantine is part of that, because when it comes to DC and finding out that Constantine is part of DC, Constantine's one of my favorite characters, and I like that part of it.
Yeah, he character-wise, he is one of my favorites, because he kind of plays by his own rules. He has, it generally looks like he's only looking after his own self-interest, but he sees a lot of the big picture things, and like all the animated John Constantine that you can watch, that's the version of him that I like. Like we were talking about, I think HBO might be bringing a series with Keanu Reeves back as Constantine, and I didn't really like him as Constantine. I like that he brought Constantine to the screen, but I would want them to go to a more traditional version of John Constantine, a British. He's like in the punk bands and things like that, and it's just, that's how I know him. So that's kind of like my thing. I don't really think it would matter if it was Keanu Reeves. He could pull it off, but that's what I would like to see. I mean, just DC is in general a little bit more darker with its material. A lot of that has to do with a lot of their core superheroes are normal people. They have your gods and your, accidents and metahumans and all that, but in general, it is more of a darker comic than Marvel usually is. Okay. They dealt with, Speedy, who was Captain Arrow's protege, being hooked on drugs, and Batman hooked on drugs, and so they showed a darker side of some of the superheroes, and that's kind of what I was liking. I mean, they're just not doing it right. I mean, like we were saying, that Marvel has somebody steering the ship, and they have the big picture set for the next 5-10 years, whatever, and they work to that, to where Marvel is just or DC is just like, because of the rights and who can do what, and they can't seem to they're not very they don't have that cohesion. It's like every movie feels like it's a one-off. I mean, they would need to do almost kind of like Marvel did with the Infinity Gauntlet. So they're at the same time in comic books. DC also had its own big event. They've had multiple big events, but the big event that I'm talking about is it was called Armageddon 2001, and basically a superhero from the future came back to time because there was a superhero that something happened to him and turned him completely dark, and he killed all the other superheroes. And each comic he would touch the superhero and he would be able to see different paths and how that their life could take them down, and it was pretty interesting. But I think that with all the Arrow universe and all that, I think they would probably do more of a Crisis on Infinite Earths type deal. But I mean, you already got Darkseid involved, and it's like you are, it's do you want to start all over again? We don't need a new Superman movie every 10 years.
Yeah.
Where you tell us, hey, this is where this guy comes from.
Yeah.
We don't need a new Batman origin every 10 years. They need to start introducing other characters that can fill in some of the gaps that they have.
Well, speaking of that, going back to the Sandman, what do you expect to see coming up in future seasons? I mean, who are some of his enemies, or is he mainly always going up against his brother and sisters?
It's his biggest enemy is his sisters, that they want, it's just a civil rivalry. They don't really they try not to get involved too much in mortal affairs. The way that the universe is supposed to end is death basically takes everybody, and then she's alone. But I think that with the last one introducing Calliope, they're going to probably go into some of their backstory, how when they were married, they had a kid. Kid is Orpheus from the Greek legend, and I think they're going to go down that road. I mean, they can do a whole lot with him, but I don't see him going into other shows or anything like that. I mean, he's not in that realm when it deals in the comic books. Usually, he's only talked to if it's something related to his realm or somebody overstepping their boundaries and stuff like that. A lot of it comes between Constantine and him, with demons trying to start stuff and things like that. So it's you'll see that, but like I said, they need to link a lot of their stories, and it's just they're doing everything as a one-off,
Okay.
and that's what Marvel is doing that is killing them right now. Is they have that cohesion, they're introducing smaller characters on Disney Plus. So I mean, they're doing it right to where you're not going to give a new character a whole movie and story arc. I mean, they pretty much need to do things like that. I mean, because that way they can get to the point in the movie, set it up quicker, and figure out how it's going to play out. So like, I think the next couple of years they're going to be dragging back and forth with this with Darkseid coming. Is he not coming? What's going on? They've already opened that jar, and you got a new Superman movie coming, so I don't know what he's going to be doing there. I mean, they could even do like the Injustice video games. They can even do a movie based off of that.
Okay.
About how because in the comic books, Joker kills Lois Lane, who's pregnant with Superman's kid, drives him fucking crazy. Oops, excuse me. And then he he does what a lot of people want Superman to do. He kills Joker. That Batman never does. Batman always hopes that he can do it, except in the Killing Joke where Batman killed him. But they need to find a storyline, work towards it, and in that process introduce other characters.
Yeah, I would like to see if they go down that road and start putting more out there that it stays dark, because I do like that part of DC, and especially like with the Sandman and with Constantine, I wonder if it's going to be confusing to people to see, in the Sandman that it's a female, and then DC comes out with Constantine with Keanu Reeves, that they're pretty much the same character,
Yeah, in the book, he had a lot of dealings with Constantine's ancestors, so that's why I think it didn't really matter that he used Joan Constantine instead of John, because he did make reference to that he, did do dealings with his family. Now Joan Constantine is his mother, or it could be his daughter. It's kind of left up in the air.
In the movie, they didn't say that he was part of a family. They just made it seem like he was given that, I think, because he had tried to commit suicide.
Yeah, so I mean that was how they did it for the movie. They didn't go into the whole the comic version. That was strictly, hey, we're going to take this comic book character and kind of change it and make a movie around it.
Okay.
They didn't really stick a lot to the story except like his magic and things that he can do. He has some pretty strong enemies, Papa Voodoo and all that. There's a lot. Like a couple years ago, probably maybe 10 or whatever, DC did start their version of DC Dark, Black Label, and it deals more with the occult. John Constantine is a big part of it. He has the House of Mystery. The House of Mystery is part of it. Then you got Etrigan the Demon and different other bad villains that use magic, and you got Zatanna and her father, and it goes a whole storyline that they could eventually do. I just think that no one is, like I said, I think no one's driving the brand. Everybody's just driving the individual movie.
Yeah, they're not tying them together like Marvel does.
Yeah.
Speaking of Marvel, that She-Hulk, I watched that, and of all the things coming out Marvel, and we're not going to stay on Marvel. It's just the She-Hulk is driving me crazy because it's more like it's a comedy show, more like it's not really. I don't know. I don't see how they're going to tie her into that. But let's get away from Marvel for now. You had mentioned that there were some things coming out. What's going on with Black Adam?
So Black Adam, he was the first Shazam, the first Captain Marvel. So in this version, they're starting where he was. Kandahar is his city, and he gets his powers after his son sacrifices his life for him, and so they're bringing him in there, and then they're introducing the Justice Society, which is a earlier version of the Justice League. In the Justice Society, they're going to have a bunch. They're not going to have some of the same characters. They are introducing some different ones, because you're going to have like Atom Smasher, Dr. Fate, which Dr. Fate is very, very powerful. Like people try to compare him to Doctor Strange, and there's no comparison. He would straight up beat Doctor Strange, because Fate is hundreds and millions, 1,000 years old, and he has more experience to draw through. So whoever wears the helmet is Dr. Fate. Okay. It changes hands a bunch of times. So Nelson Kent is the version that you're going to see. At one point in time, it tries to take Zatanna, but then Zatanna's father takes her place. So I mean, it changes. The mantle changes a few times. I don't know how they're going to do with this, but I think that it's going to be interesting to see them interact. But his main person that he's going to be interacting with is going to be, Shazam and the Marvel family. Because now that you have all the different Marvels, there's going to be, he's going to have a core group of people that he's going to probably deal with. I mean, it's not really a comparison just between like Superman and Black Adam, because Black Adam would destroy him. Because Superman is one of his things is he can't really do magic. It's not like his kryptonite. He just can't battle magic very well. So, and to where Shazam is, a 10-year-old kid in Shazam's body, where, Black Adam is 100% that character. He's that old, and he's gonna probably start off as a bad guy, but you're gonna eventually see that he works his way around to being he's not a bad guy. He just does things wrong, because but no, I would see that, that they would end up having Black Adam come in with maybe some other villains, and they do like the Legion of Doom or something like that, and because you got the good setup to do it, but you just have to do some little fine tuning here and there.
When do they? I have not looked into that particular one, but when do they plan on coming out with the Black Adam?
I think it's sometime this year or early next year. Things get kind of pushed around. I don't really know about the dates. I just it's coming. No. I watch things on YouTube where they show you new movies coming. I just saw one the other day. That's how I saw that HBO was doing a Constantine series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought I saw something on him that Marvel was people were pushing for Marvel to pick up Keanu Reeves, but
well, I mean, I definitely think that he's going to end up there. Uh-huh. They're already taking Superman, and he's gonna be playing somebody in the Marvel universe, and so
you mean the actor that plays Superman?
Henry Cavill, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was watching that. I was like, oh, that seems pretty cool, because I like Keanu Reeves, but I also like him as Constantine,
Yeah.
Having been introduced to it, that's the only version I know of Constantine. I didn't read the comic books.
Yeah, so he also has his own series that he's written, Keanu Reeves. Okay. It's called Berserker, and it's basically kind of like John Wick, but it's that type of movie, like somebody seeking retribution for wronging them, and he's a mercenary, things like that. It's a pretty interesting book.
Yeah, I wonder, and then you said, going back to Black Adam, that's mainly between him and Shazam, so there's another Shazam coming out?
Well, there is another Shazam coming out. It's going to be, of course, probably after this one. It's going to probably be after Superman. I don't. They go in between movies too long, and that's because they're all different companies. So what they need to do is, like Marvel, they have one company. They are the ones that are driving the universe. Everything off of that is worked into their character. So if they needed to do that with DC, that would be the best thing for them. Now, I don't know who would be able to. I mean, Zack Snyder was trying to do that with Justice League, and but then he got booted, and then they released a Snyder cut of Justice League, and everybody was like, "This is so much better than what we got." So I think they would need to get a couple key movie directors and figure out how they're going to correct the ship and what would make most sense to do it. So it looks like they're using HBO as a platform, because Constantine's going to be on HBO. They're going to have the Green Lantern Corps is going to be on HBO. So I think they can use HBO as a way to introduce them. They already have what is the one with Raven, the Teen Titans. They already have the Teen Titans,
which I haven't seen that one yet. I haven't watched it.
And they've introduced a lot of different characters. They also had Doom Patrol, which introduced Doom Patrol, and so I think that if they're going to use HBO as their platform, they could do a lot more darker stuff, because HBO isn't Disney,
Right.
and they can do some of the things that
That Disney wouldn't allow.
Disney, I don't know how the first Deadpool movie is going to be in Disney.
It's on there though.
You're used to seeing that. It's on there now, but like Disney don't make R-rated movies,
Right.
So now it's like, well, what are we going to do?
Yeah. So you mentioned Green Lantern. Green Lantern's coming out with more stuff, you said?
Yeah. So from what I've heard, they're doing a Green Lantern series. I didn't hear, who it's going to be around. I don't know if it's going to be Hal Jordan or John Stewart. I don't know. They're going to probably deal with kind of more Guardians of the Galaxy type things, because that's kind of who they are. Each Green Lantern has their own sector of space that they are like the U.S. Marshals, and they worry about what's going on there. So I think that's where they're going to kind of go the Justice or the Guardians of the Galaxy route, and they'll deal with more alien invasion type stuff, or just general bad guys and things of that nature. I don't know if they're going to be working it towards that. I mean, they were supposed to have Tom Cruise was supposed to be playing Green Lantern in the next Justice League movie, but who knows what they're doing there.
Yeah. So there is another Justice League movie coming out?
Whether it gets made or not, you don't know.
Okay.
I mean, because if they don't make another Justice League movie, then they're going to have to they'll have to deal with the Darkseid issue. Well, how did that, because all your characters are now know that he's coming, so how are you going to deal with that?
Yeah.
So they would have to address it.
Okay.
And it's not something that they can address just off the rip. I mean, because he could pretty much destroy every one of them. I mean, Superman is a good fight for him, and but like in the comic books and the series, Batman's the one that beats him.
Oh wow.
I mean, because Batman would do what needs to be done to win, and Darkseid ends up respecting him for it.
Okay.
Because he knows that if anybody else would have tried to do what he did, that they wouldn't go through with it. So he knew, because he threatened to destroy Darkseid Apocalypse, where Darkseid lives with Hellspawns, and Batman said that he broke his encryption and set all the Hellspawns to go off on the planet. And in the process of him getting beat up by Darkseid finally says, all right, you're the only one that would would do that, and basically he says, because you kill your own kind for no reason, so you'll go through with it. So he kind of wins his respect from that. I mean, but there's a lot of different storylines that they can go down, and it's just they're not having that Avengers moment, so they need to have an Avengers type moment to where they can rally the troops and introduce all these other characters. And I think they're probably going to do it with the Dark Justice League Dark brand, because they could do a lot with that, with introducing smaller characters and things like that.
So I wanted to ask about Spawn. Now, is Spawn part of DC or Marvel?
He's from Impact Comics, so it's more of not a mainstream comic. It is now. I mean, Todd McFarlane has drawn in DC and he has drawn in Marvel, but he basically wanted a venue to create his own material, and that's what he did. I think he's more of the line with probably DC if they were going to bring Spawn in. There is a whole Spawn universe. If they were going to bring him in to one of them, it would probably be DC.
Yeah, and I like Spawn just like I like Constantine, because they deal with that heaven and hell and demons, and I don't know about Spawn if they deal with angels or anything like that. So yeah, those are my favorite kind of things that I'm starting to get into, and that's why I like Constantine also.
Yeah.
So, I would like to see Spawn come over to DC and make an appearance. So I think that would be cool.
Yeah, I mean, they Constantine also deals a lot with like Lucifer, from the show Lucifer, and he deals with him and the other angels, and they do have interactions. And Marvel really doesn't go a lot into like faith-based comics, or I mean, at one point in time, Hal Jordan becomes the Spectre, who is the vengeance of God. And that's a pretty nice storyline, and I like him as the Spectre. But yeah, they definitely do more like religious stuff, undertones, and things like that.
You got any other predictions you see coming up for DC, or you looking into anything?
I mean, it's tough just because I don't want to see Jared Leto again as Joker. I don't. I mean, he's horrible. He ruined Morbius in Marvel. It's just, he's a very good actor, but he can't pull off playing a superhero. And
that's funny.
Some people liked him as the Joker, but it's not the Joker that we want.
Right. Who's your favorite Batman?
Well, I mean, Christian Bale is by far, but I like Ben Affleck more as Bruce Wayne than any of the other ones.
Okay.
He could play a very good version of an older Batman. There's a storyline where Batman basically is old, and he could play a good version of that. The new Batman that they made, I really liked how they did that, because they kind of started it off as they based it off of Batman has like his series. It's called Year One, where this is the first time he becomes a vigilante, and it shows him starting out, and he relies more on his detective skills. And a lot of people don't realize that DC Comics stands for Detective Comics.
Oh wow.
Because when DC was writing, before there was any superheroes, it was all weird tales, war stories, detective comics. It was all of that. So then Siegel and Schuster created Superman, and then they're like, well, what can we do to have our own superhero? So they looked at, what do we know? We know detective. We're known for being a detective comic book. So they created a detective that he's a normal person. Now, granted, he has learned throughout the years, how to handle himself, and what he lacks in strength, he makes up for in technology. And everybody says, oh, with a little bit of prep time, Batman can beat anybody, but you don't always get that prep time.
Right.
And that's a good storyline that they could even go through. They could go through Batman having to take down the rest of the Justice League for whatever reason, and because he plans that, like, he has a file on everybody in the Justice League on how he would beat them.
Oh,
and
wow.
when the Justice League found out, they weren't happy with it, but then he had to put Superman down in order to save everybody. So they were like, well, but yeah, I mean, so they did their detective comics, and they pumped out Batman. That's why they have more of a darker edge, and because that's where they came from. Once they started merging different comic books companies, and they started buying them, because like Superman wasn't written for, didn't come out as in DC. He was another comic book company, and a lot of people may or may not know, the creators of Superman are from Ohio. They created him while they were in religious school, so that's really why Superman has a lot of Christ-like comparisons.
Oh, wow.
He was the last son of Krypton. His father sent him here to lead mankind, and even goes all the way up to the resurrection when Superman comes back. I mean, it's
Oh, wow.
So I mean, it's kind of he has a little tongue-in-cheek kind of comparisons to, because they went off the material. They were Catholic, and getting told, fire and brimstone, and and all that. So I think that's what people write. They write kind of what they know, and they have a lot more heartfelt stories in DC that they have a lot of characters that have to portray a lot of emotions while being emotionless. So like John Constantine, he first appeared in Swamp Thing 83. Okay. Swamp Thing is a monster. He's the protector of the green. He's I don't want to say a godlike creature, but that's kind of where he evolved to. So he was a scientist who got murdered, and he came back as Swamp Thing, and he was still in love with his fiance, and so but then now the way that Swamp Thing is now is he's pretty much, let's get all these humans off this planet so it can survive. I mean, they could do something like that. They could do a lot of different things.
Oh, wow. So
I think in the new well, I don't want to go start, because once we start going into Marvel, we'll be talking Marvel for a while.
We'll go into Marvel, and what I plan on for Marvel is I think I mentioned before, but I want to get in another guy, but he's strictly one character. I forget, the Punisher.
A Punisher.
And I'm trying to ask my stepbrother, where he's he's into mutants. He's into all that. So maybe try a different style of show, not a debate, but where you guys all come together. You're still the reigning king on everything because they all say a lot. But what else do you know that's coming out with DC? If not much more, I know I keep asking that, but I'm just trying to see what we can keep our eyes open for.
So like in the comics, I see what's going on is Superman's son is now the reigning Superman. You have Batman's son. There's actually a different Batman who is Lucius Fox's son. He is the new Batman. So like I know that they want to bring a version of Superman to the silver screen where Superman is black. And so in the comics, there is a black Superman. He is from the same planet. He's from another city. They are more strictly science based, to where they kind of look down on the people from Superman's home world city, like they're barbarians, because they've evolved past that. There's different houses and things like that. So I mean, I could see them doing that. They just have to pick one arc that can introduce a bunch of characters because it's going to take, if they were to do that, it would take them a good 10 years to catch up to Marvel. And then eventually everybody's going to give their money when Marvel versus DC comes out in the theaters.
Wow. I didn't even think about that.
Because I mean, it's happened in the comic books. So it would be probably a 2-part movie, and they're going to realize that, hey, they're just another universe, just like we are, just, multiverse, both DC and Marvel have the multiverse and things like that. So it's like, yeah, they could be just another version of our home world, but different heroes. They're also going to do, take all of our money when the X-Men have to fight the Avengers.
Okay.
Because that's a big event. But like sticking with DC, there's a lot of little characters that they can introduce. I think with the Justice League movie, or the Green Lantern Corps movie, you're going to probably see a couple different versions of Green Lantern. John Stewart is, a lot of people prefer John Stewart over Hal Jordan as a Green Lantern. My favorite Green Lantern is Guy Gardner, because he's an a-hole. He is, but he has his own reasons. And by them doing that, by being in outer space, they can introduce a bunch of different people. You can introduce Lobo, who is a bounty hunter. He's very overpowered, and it's not somebody that you can easily beat. He could be a main protagonist in a DC storyline where he comes to Earth looking for bounty, and Earth's heroes have bounties on their heads or something like that.
What they need is you to work for them, right?
Man, I'll quit my job tomorrow.
Bring me on as an assistant, but they need someone like you on there to say, hey, listen, this is what we need to do, and this is the area or the direction we need to go to compete with this. We need to get up to par.
Yeah, I would agree, but I mean, there's some people that are in the comics that they would make horrible writers, because what is in their version of comics is the only version, to where they can't really, they don't want to see, like in DC, basically they reset and it's called the New 52. So they created everybody started over again, and they had the first Green Lantern, and he was the main Green Lantern in that point, but they made him gay. And people lost their mind. Well, he wasn't gay in the comic book. To me, it doesn't matter. I mean, that has nothing to do with, he's a different type of Green Lantern anyway. His powers were not derived from Oa like the rest of the Green Lanterns were. So he really wasn't a Green Lantern, but he was the first Green Lantern. And things like that. So, and they're like, well, they want you to stick 100% to what the comic book's written, and sometimes you have to kind of bend some things, steal from other comic books to make your movie more easily to watch. And it's like, they're the ones that are sitting in the movie theater like me talking about, well, that technically didn't happen. It was, like in Infinite Gauntlet, it was like, well, I mean, the person that beat Thanos wasn't even introduced, and so, but I liked it the way that they did. I liked the way that it went.
Yeah.
It didn't take from the story.
Well, Eric, I appreciate everything. I mean, we can go on and on and on, but we're definitely going to have you back on shortly. We always come up with something, but I appreciate everything. And hopefully, if anybody has any comments or questions, just go ahead and comment down below. And, we appreciate everything. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And Eric, thank you again. You're very awesome. Problem. And you should be a superhero yourself. And DC, please reach out to Eric.
I would be more of a villain. some of my favorite characters are the villains. I'm like, Dr. Doom is by far one of my best people that I like, and that's who I hope. Prediction: I hope that Henry Cavill plays Dr. Doom.
Awesome.
Because he would play a very good despot, and people think that Dr. Doom, he has bad ways of doing things, but people forget that he's like Wakanda. He has his own country, and he takes care of his people very well. And if you might not like how he does things, but when you're dealing with somebody who is a king and you are not a king, he's gonna feel like, why, I'm not gonna talk down to you. So I think that's because with all the stuff that in Marvel that's coming, he would fit really good into that role. I think. Well,
we appreciate it. So I'm just going to end it here, Eric. Thank you very much. And you have a great day. Thank you very much.
Talk to you later.